is SpaceX. It has set a $135 price for its shares in its initial public offering. The company aiming to raise at least $75 billion US. That's a record amount for an IPO. That price would value SpaceX at more than $1.75 trillion, placing it among the world's 10 most valuable companies. And it'll kick off an investor roadshow tonight. Pricing expected on June the 11th, with trading expected to begin the following day on the NASDAQ. And Tesla already owns a stake in SpaceX after the company's $2 billion investment in XAI got converted to SpaceX shares following SpaceX's acquisition of XAI earlier this year. Wall Street analyst Dan Ayers from Wedbush saying he expects SpaceX and Tesla will eventually merge into one company next year. Mark Moreland, how excited are you, and what do you see as the prospects here?
Well, just on the Tesla merger argument, I think it's likely. I think Musk would like to do it, but he has to do it. His biggest challenge is he effectively doesn't have control of Tesla. And remember, he had a lot of problems and moved from Delaware to Texas because the court rejected his pay deal that had been signed off by shareholders and the board. So he's had a lot of struggles where he's limited on controlling the company. So with SpaceX, with his preference shares, he has, I think he controls about 84% effectively, so he has complete control. So merging Tesla in, at the moment, they're pretty similar business size. Tesla, I think, is about 1.4 trillion at the moment. There's a lot of reasons to join them because they're doing a lot of things together, and there's a lot of admin and drama caused by having to work through between the two companies as two separate listed entities, from a corporate governance point of view. So I think he'd be very keen to do it as long as he has control of the combined entities. So whether that'll happen within 12 months, I don't know. I think it's quite possible. That's how I'd put it for that part of it. Overall, of course, the SpaceX IPO is very exciting, and it's actually we're having a conference in Singapore on the 12th of June, which coincidentally is the IPO day for SpaceX. So that's really exciting. So I've got about 85 members from coming up to Singapore for the Super AI conference, followed by our conference. But SpaceX IPO, I think it will be a big success. It's funny actually, because if you look at it, what is ChatGPT or OpenAI? I think they've just raised 120 billion. So they've raised way more than what SpaceX is actually raising in the listing. So even though it's going to be the biggest IPO in history, remember the actual cash drain from the market is only 75 billion, which is not. I don't think it's anything really a big deal, even though it's the biggest IPO in history. I'm a bit surprised actually they didn't go for quite a lot more money, because I thought it would have been a good opportunity to grab it while you can, because if you look at his aspirations of building the data centers in space, obviously eventually building a base on the moon and then Mars down the road, there's going to be just an ongoing need for a lot of capital. So you can assume that after the listing there'll probably be capital raises, I would assume, in not too distant future.
All right. So, what would you do with it? I mean, obviously, if you wanted to try and get a slice of the IPO, but beyond that,
I'm not a shareholder now, and my broker unfortunately doesn't have any shares to offer, so I can't get any. So I'd have to buy it on market. I'll see what happens on the day. I doubt if I'd buy it on the day, because I'd be surprised if it doesn't spike up significantly on the day. And then the usual thing is over the next few weeks it'll calm down and the price will come back somewhat, and then I'll buy some, because I want to be part of it, even though you're paying a significant premium for the Musk factor. But the Musk factor is real, and he has an absolute history of delivery, and maybe sometimes it takes him longer to do things than he thinks, but the bottom line is he's been very, very good for shareholders in all of his enterprises, and I've done very, very, very well in Tesla, for instance. So I definitely want to be a shareholder. It doesn't mean I'm putting a massive amount of money in it, and then we'll see how it transpires as it starts playing out. But it's got virtually an enormous TAM. The whole space industry really wasn't an industry before. It was just a cost center for NASA and so on, and for satellite launches. It's now going to turn into a massive new business area, which could be the biggest thing we have. Yeah. So I'm very bullish.
It is amazing, isn't it, given the history of exploration into space and just how costly it's been, and dramatic turnaround since it's all gone private. Mark Gardner, with IPOs, you tend to see that action, don't you, that Mark Moreland was talking about, is that it spikes, then it falls away. Given that strategy, what would you do with it?
I mean, if you're not getting it on the IPO, or you're not buying it market on open day one, I'll be waiting for it to probably halve and then get involved. These numbers, the TAM numbers that have been bandied around are total space affected TAM. So this 28 trillion number it wraps up a whole bunch of different industries. It basically, and if you go and do global GDP numbers, you're essentially buying something now that in 9 years' time will be on the promise that it will be 3 times the size of the healthcare industry in the world, and that's it. And then they're rolling up a bunch of different things data center and all this other stuff in it. Like the realistic actual space part of it, and I know it's a bit more diversified than just space, is really only around conservative numbers of 1.8 trillion to 2 or 3 trillion on the upside. So, I mean, you're buying the science fiction here, and look, Musk has got a record of delivering, but he's got a very solid track record of delivering way later than what he says. So, I mean, if you go and look at all the other analysts, from NASA all the way out to independent analysts, his timelines are, they're at least a couple of years out of whack. So I can see this one effectively, people getting impatient, and it's just it's a matter of how long the sizzle can last, because the current prices it's 105 times sales that it's being priced at, and I just there's only so much investors can take. And in terms of it only being not sucking out capital from the market, being 75 billion, but what actually happens is that SpaceX comes in at 1.75 trillion, but it replaces a company worth $10 billion. So the entire index gets reweighted, and then you're basically going to see the other 499 stocks have 1.7 trillion in selling to rebalance the index. So it's not the actual IPO number that's being sucked out, it's the rebalancing that's going to need to be done, and anything that's even slightly weaker or outside of those mega cap stocks is it may not be able to handle that weighting, and we're at really high valuations at the moment across the board and it's really only been one sector carrying this index. So I think if we've had a record run, I think 10 weeks straight weekly wins. We've just had our first down day in 10 days. We've gone back 40 years. We can't find an occurrence where the market's had that consecutive run, so we're probably due for a pullback. If this lines up with that index selling as well, I think it may not be a good thing for the market. I am bullish long term. I know it sounds really negative, but I think that he's a genius. Obviously, IPOing now, it's very opportunistic. There's a lot of sizzle around it, and I think it'll probably have a good week or so maybe, and then I think reality will come home to roost. So I just wait. I definitely would make it a part of a portfolio. It's just a matter of what price.
All right, I'm going to call that a wait from both, but a longer term buy, just to see where it goes. But interesting, Mark, you say that just as far as what's likely to happen to the index, because I saw a chart earlier this morning, in fact, from S&P saying after when these IPOs come in clumps, history will tell you the market takes a significant dip.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then we've got another 2 coming up with Anthropic's moved up their timeline as well. So there's another huge. 2 trillion coming in.
All right, so that is the view on our stock of the day, SpaceX.